Hi, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Smith from fourth grade. All the fourth grade teachers have been noticing that many kids are not providing text evidence in your reading response comprehension questions for wild robot escapes. Starting on Monday, we will be grading these answers, and if you don't provide text evidence, you will not get your full credit. So I'm going to model for you how you would go about putting in text evidence for your comprehension reading response questions. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to listen to me read the chapter, which would have been here. You already read chapters 51 through 53 by listening to me. A key note is before you read and listen to the chapter, you might want to look at the question. So today, before you listen to me read, go into the question for today's chapter and find out what I'm looking for. So while you're listening to me, you can think, oh, I need to find some of that evidence. What would be some evidence? If you don't look at the question ahead of time, you can just listen to me and you can look at the question and then you need to use the PDF to help you answer it. That's the only way you're going to have text evidence is you go back into the PDF, which is attached to your assignment in Google Classroom. Okay, so today's question, it says, all answers should use text evidence when asked. Use proper grammar, spelling, and your best fourth grade sentences. So after you're done, you should be checking your spelling. Make sure you turn the question around when answering. That's the first part, and we're going to do that first. Chapter 52 is titled The Scout. Why did the author name this chapter The Scout? Use text evidence to explain. So, and it tells you to go back into I'm going to change the color so you can see it a little bit better. Blue. Maybe a little bit bigger. 14. Okay, so first we're going to do is turn the question around. Chapter 52 is titled The Scout. Why did the author name this chapter The Scout? So think in your head, why did the author name this chapter The Scout? Get rid of the question word, why did? The author name this chapter The Scout. Or, I feel the author named this chapter The Scout because. I should capitalize the and not have a because capitalized there. Because. I feel that the author named this chapter The Scout because. Now, if you're not sure what a scout is, then you're going to reread the PDF. But many of you might know what a scout is. You might be a Boy Scout. You might be a Girl Scout. You might have been a Cub Scout. You might have been in some kind of scout capacity, or maybe you've seen a movie or read something when you're scouting something out. So a scout is, and if you're not sure, you can go back in the text, but we will be going back in the text. But a scout is someone that leads others and helps others to do something. So we're going to go back into chapter 52, pages 148 through 149, and we're going to find that word, some information about being a scout. Now here is the PDF, The Scout. So if I were you, after looking at the question, you would then reread the PDF, chapter 52, The Scout. Would the airship return? Were the Ricos hunting for Roz? Was it only a matter of time before she was caught? It was impossible to know. So our friends tried not to worry about those troubling questions, and they continued sneaking through the farm country from one wooded area to the next. Roz wore a disguise of mud and weeds and bark. At the first hint of trouble, she would freeze and instantly become a rotten old tree trunk. Then she'd wait for Bright Bill to tell her when it was safe to move on. If there were humans or robots nearby, she might have to wait for hours. So right here, Bright Bill is showing that he's being a scout. She's waiting for him to tell her. Back on the island, Bright Bill had practiced flying like hawks and owls and sparrows and vultures. He couldn't fly exactly like those birds, but he was an expert of diving and swooping and darting and soaring. Now he used those skills to secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return for a short time later to share his findings. So right here is part of it. So we're going to look at this information. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time later. Bright Bill would fly ahead and see if it was safe for Roz to move on. Now, how do you do tax evidence? We're going to be coming back to the PDF in a second, but I want you to look at this evidence sheet. I'm going to put the claim and evidence, just this part of it, on your sheets. So it says your answer, which we did, solution or opinion, which our solution or opinion was, I feel the author named this chapter The Scout because and then we wrote our answer, Bright Bill would fly ahead and see if it was safe for Roz to move on. Then, citing evidence. You might write according to the text. The article states. We're not reading an article, we're reading a book. According to the author. No, not really. The author states. It's a book, so we're going to go, the text says. So we're going to write down the text says. Or you might write on page blank, it says. I'm going to say the text says. The text says, comma, quotation marks. That's how you punctuate, comma, then quotation marks. We're going to go back in the text and specifically see what it says. So, he'd use those skills, secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly out from her shoulder and return a short time later to share his findings. So, let me go up here. I'm going to say that Bright Bill was right. He was an expert diving, scooping, shooting, darting, soaring. Now he uses those skills to secretly scout out. So I'm just going to go ahead. Now he uses those skills to secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. Starting with that, he used those skills to, come back in again, secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder, so I'm going to say for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time later. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time later. To share his findings. I'm going to reread that. I feel the author named this chapter The Scout because Bright Bill would fly ahead and see if it was safe for Roz to move on. The text says he used those skills to secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time to share his findings. I'm looking further. I might say, in this chapter, it also says, this is another piece of text evidence, that Bright Bill would, and then let me quote, beyond these trees is a highway. Stay here and I'll tell you when it's safe. So I'll probably change what I wrote. Beyond these trees is a highway. Stay here and I'll tell you when it's safe to cross. Stay here and I will tell you when it is safe to cross. I'm going to reread that because I'm going to change a little bit of what I wrote here. I feel the author named this chapter The Scout because Brightbill would fly ahead and see if it was safe for Roz to move on. That's answering the question. Now you're providing evidence. The text says he used those skills to secretly scout out the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up from her shoulder and return a short time later to share his findings. In this chapter, it also says, I'm going to change that. In this chapter, Brightbill told his mother, beyond these trees is a highway. Stay here and I'll tell you when it's safe to cross. Now I'm going to end it. This Brightbill helped Roz throughout the book by scouting out whether it was safe to move ahead or to hide. This is why I feel the author titled the chapter The Scout. We use two different types of information here of text evidence. First, right here, we turn the question around. Let me get the highlighter out, yellow. First, we turn the question around here. Why isn't that working? Please work. This is how we turn the question around. Still not working. Okay, this is where we turn the question around. Here we use text evidence here. The text says we use text evidence. We said also we use some text evidence. This is using two types of text evidence to answer question. And then we answered the final part is that we summed it all up. This is why I feel the author titled the chapter The Scout. So let's read the whole question. We're supposed to, why did the author name the Scout? Use text evidence to explain. I feel the author named this chapter The Scout because Brightbill would fly ahead and see if it was safe for Raj to move on. That's the answer, but we needed evidence. The text says he used those skills to secretly scout on the countryside for his mother. He'd fly up her shoulder and return a short time later to share his findings. That's showing that he's scouting it out. In this chapter, Brightbill told his mother, beyond this trees is a highway. Stay here and I'll tell you when it's safe to cross. That is more text evidence. Brightbill helped Roz throughout the book by scouting out whether it was safe to move on or to hide. This is why I feel the author titled the chapter The Scout. This would be a perfect 10 out of 10 answer because you had two text evidence pieces. And we want for you to at least try your very best to state at least one text evidence information and to make sure you're restating the question, answering it, and having a text evidence. I hope this helps you today. I'm hoping all of our fourth graders will use text evidence to answer the question and will turn in the question answer to their teacher. Have a great day.